Okay, so we're moving on to item number 10. This item is a public hearing to consider environmental impact report, adopt findings and statements of overriding consideration, the mitigation, monitoring, and reporting program, approve the project permits and the agreement with Caltrans for the coastal rail trail segments 10 and 11 project, and take related actions. And this is a presentation by Community Development and Infrastructure. Looks like we have some park staff. And before we open it up for presentation, Supervisor Friend, I understand you have a conflict of interest, and so I'll let you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I unfortunately need to recuse from this item, so I'm going to step out for it. I have a potential conflict because I live within, my primary residence is within 500 feet of the rail line, so I have a potential financial conflict on these items, so I will step out for this for recusal. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I will turn it over to staff for the staff presentation on this item.
Thank you, Chair Cummings. Members of the board, good morning. My name is Rob Tidmore. I'm a park planner and the project manager for Coastal Rail Trail segments 10 and 11. I'm joined here by Kate Elliott, Director of Environmental Compliance and Planning from Harrison Associates, who is leading the environmental review for the project. I'm also here with Matt Machado, Deputy CAO and Director of Community Development Infrastructure, and Rebecca Hurley, Deputy Director of Parks. We're here to present the Coastal Rail Trail segments 10 and 11 project for the board's consideration. Prior to really jumping into the details about the project, as part of the last item, I heard a lot of comments and requests for education as part of this new ordinance. And I just wanted to remind the board and the public that as part of the Coastal Rail Trail Segments 1011 project, the ATP grant that we requested for the project includes almost $1 million of bicycle and pedestrian education and outreach for elementary school students in the area, includes 10 schools as well as within the community. So, and we're also working with Ecology Action on that. So over the next 4 years, the community will be educated in safe biking and walking. And while when this issue about e-bikes came up and was discussed in the board, I reached out to Ecology Action to see if they could modify the scope to include specific trainings about e-bikes, and they currently don't have that program developed and it's not in the scope, but to the extent that they can accommodate that under the existing scope, and certainly we can include education about this new ordinance in that education and programming. So hopefully that'll help with that. And so before we begin diving into the details, I want to acknowledge all the fantastic people, agencies, and consultants that have contributed to this large and complex project, many of whom are here in attendance today and available to help answer questions. The county is the lead agency for the project. I've been working closely with the following staff: Steve Wiesner and Russell Chen from Transportation, Stephanie Hansen, Matt Johnston, and Juliet Robinson from Environmental Planning, Allison Tom and Rachel Fatui from Stormwater, and many staff from County Parks. The county is partnering with 2 responsible agencies to deliver the project: the Santa Cruz County Regional Transportation Commission, or RTC, since they are the owner of the rail line and they provide critical oversight and project funding. Here today from the RTC is Grace Blakesley, a senior transportation partner and their rail trail lead. The city of Capitola, since roughly half of the project passes through their jurisdiction, Katie Hurley, Jessica Kahn, and Kailash Mazumdar. The design consultant for the project is RRM Design Group. They're led by Mike Sherrod and Morgan Stockey. This is the same team who completed the Monterey Bay Sanctuary Scenic Trail Master Plan. And then rounding out the team is the environmental consultant Harrison Associates, led by Kate, with Aaron McGinty and Justin Davila from Ecosystems West, and Nicole West and Stephen Treffers from Rincon. Oh, should have done that first. So here's the outline for today's presentation. I'm going to provide an overview of the Coastal Rail Trail, followed by a discussion of the particulars of the Segments 1011 project. Then I'll hand the presentation off to Kate to go over the project's environmental review and the results of the final EIR. I'll then review the permits that are up for approval today, provide an update on the project's funding and costs, and discuss how that relates to the baseline agreement that is up for your consideration. I'll present some potential ideas for how to fully fund the project and conclude with a schedule update. Now for a brief Coastal Rail Trail overview. Starting with some background and context, the Monterey Bay Sanctuary Scenic Trail, or MBSST, is a multi-use trail project that extends around the entire length of Monterey Bay in Santa Cruz and Monterey counties. The RTC led development of the Trail Master Plan to identify a trail network in Santa Cruz County that would serve as the MBSST and meet the goals of providing new active transportation facilities and foster appreciation of the coast. The RTC, as owner of the Santa Cruz Branch Rail Line, which extends 32 miles between Davenport and the northern part of Santa Cruz County to Pajaro in Monterey County, identified a trail along the Santa Cruz Branch Rail Line as the spine of the MBSST network. This 32-mile-long trail is referred to as the Coastal Rail Trail. The MVSST master plan was adopted by the County of Santa Cruz and the other jurisdictions through which it passes in 2014 and 2015. The master plan organized the trail alignment into 20 segments with logical beginning and endpoints so that it could be instructed in pieces as funding became available. This slide provides an overview of the Coastal Rail Trail project development. The areas shown in red indicate that the project is funded through construction, and areas in green have been completed. I want to point out two projects in addition to the Segment 1011 project that the county is involved in. At the northern end of the map is the Segment 5 project, which is being led by the RTC. The project is out to bid, and bids are actually being opened today, I believe at 2 p.m. The county has entered into a maintenance agreement with the RTC to maintain the project once it's constructed. The second is the Segments 8 and 9 project, roughly in the center of the map, which is being led by the city of Santa Cruz, but a portion of the project is in the county's jurisdiction. County staff are currently working with city and RTC staff on a three-way cooperative agreement, which will outline the roles and responsibilities for delivery of the project. This agreement will be brought to the board for approval once all the details are negotiated. You can see from the map that the region is advancing a significant portion of the Coastal Rail Trail, which will transform the community's bicycle and pedestrian network. This is in large part due to recent competitive grant awards by the county, the city of Santa Cruz, and the RTC. The Segments 1011 project, just to the east of Segments 8 and 9, represents roughly 4.5 miles of the almost 18 miles of coastal rail trail that are funded through construction and will connect people from Davenport to Aptos once built. At the southern end of the county, the RTC is now engaging with the community to develop Segments 13 through 20 as part of their zero-emission passenger rail and trail project. This will also include the trail and rail alignment over the Capitola Trestle, shown as Segment 11B in the center of the map. Now going to move to a focused overview of the Segments 1011 project. This is a map showing Segment 10 in green, which starts at 17th Avenue and goes to 47th Avenue. The Capitola city limits are overlaid on the map for reference in dark gray. Segment 11, shown in purple, starts at 47th Avenue and passes through the city of Capitola and New Brighton State Beach before ending at State Park Drive. All told, Segments 10 and 11 are 4.7 miles long. The project includes a phased approach to trail development. Under the phased approach, there are two different ways in which the rail corridor could be developed with the trail: the ultimate trail and an optional interim trail, both of which are included in the environmental impact report as part of the proposed project and therefore analyzed at an equal level of detail. The first way to develop the trail is shown on the screen, and that is to proceed directly to building the trail next to the rail line, which we're calling the ultimate trail configuration. This is consistent with the MVSST master plan and is also the configuration for which the county applied for and received ATP grant funding. With the ultimate trail configuration, the existing rail line is preserved. The trail is built next to the tracks, maintaining the required offset distance from center line of tracks. The trail is generally 12 feet wide, but is reduced in some areas due to constraints and widened in others where there is room. Fencing is required on the side of the trail next to the rail line and on the far side of the trail where grade changes make it necessary for safety, like shown in the image on screen on the right. Under the ultimate trail configuration, the project is 4.2 miles long and would include new bicycle pedestrian bridges. The second way in which the corridor could be developed is to implement an optional first phase as part of the project, where the existing railroad tracks are removed and an interim trail is built on the rail line. This approach would require rail banking of the corridor in order to be able to remove the railroad tracks. Under this scenario, the trail is generally 16 feet wide, but is reduced to 12 feet in several areas due to constraints. Fencing is not required with this option, except where grade changes make it necessary for safety. Under the interim trail configuration, the project is 4.7 miles long because it includes half mile of trail across Soquel Creek on the existing Capitola Trestle. The existing rail bridges would be converted to bicycle and pedestrian use. If the rail line were later reactivated, the optional first phase would be followed by future parts where the interim trail is removed, the railroad tracks are rebuilt, and the new trail is built next to the rail line in the ultimate trail configuration. There have been a number of questions and comments from the public about why the project includes the interim trail, given the results of the Measure D vote in June of 2022. And the county included the optional interim trail because it was requested during the EIR scoping process, which occurred in November of 2021 prior to the results of the 2022 Measure D vote. And further, the county included the optional interim trail in the EIR to provide maximum transparency to the public and decision makers about the environmental impacts and the design of the two alignments. But now I'm going to get into more detail on Segment 10. The project includes a new north-south crossing of the rail line between Chanticleer and Corcoran to improve bicycle and pedestrian connectivity in this neighborhood. The trail will also connect to Thompson Avenue on the north side of the tracks. At Rodeo Gulch, the ultimate trail will feature a new bicycle pedestrian bridge, and the interim trail will convert the existing rail bridge to trail use. There will be new trail crossings at 30th, 38th, 41st, 47th, and 47th Avenue, which will have cross bikes and activated flashing crossing lights to alert drivers. And I'll show an image of those improvements in a couple slides. The trail alignment, the ultimate trail is located on the inland side of the tracks for the entirety of segment 10, and then switches to the coastal side of the tracks at 47th Avenue, where segment 11 begins. The ultimate trail configuration also includes relocating the railroad tracks for almost the entirety of segment 10 from where they are currently located in the center of the corridor, which is shown in red on the plans on your screen, to between 5.5 to 8 feet towards the south or the coastal side of the right-of-way in order to fit both the trail and the tracks in this narrow corridor. These are two views of the 41st Avenue Railroad crossing looking east. The image on the left is existing, and the image on the right is with the ultimate trail and the relocated track. In the image on the right, widened sidewalks have been added on both sides of 41st Avenue, which shortens the crossing distance and improves the visibility of trail users as they wait to cross the street. As with all the crossings, green cross-bike pavement markings and LED flashing pedestrian crossing signs will be added to improve safety. These will be similar to the existing intersection improvements that are already built on portions of the rail trail in the city of Santa Cruz. Here are two views of Jade Street Park and 47th Avenue looking west. Existing is on the left and the ultimate trail is shown on the right. Crucially, the existing redwood trees will be retained, and there will be no fencing on the park side to provide maximum permeability to this important community asset. On the bottom of the screen, the trail switches from the inland side of the tracks to the coastal side of the tracks at 47th Avenue, and there is an expanded sidewalk corner being added to the southeast corner of Portola and 47th, which will in effect slow cars turning from Portola onto 47th to improve safety for people using the trail. And there are green cross-bike markings at the trail crossing. Segment 11, shown in purple, starts at 47th, continues on the coastal side of the railroad tracks to Opal Street, where a new improved and widened concrete staircase and formalized rail crossing connects to Opal Street in the Jewel Box neighborhood. The plans for the area are shown on the right of the screen in the image. The formal rail crossing will be subject to CPUC approval, but we think has a good chance of being approved due to the high volume of historic use. This is also where the ultimate trail transitions to using existing sidewalks and bike lanes through Capitola Village, and the interim trail continues over the Capitola Trestle, which I'll describe on the next couple slides. Under the ultimate trail configuration, the trail ends at Cliff Drive, and trail users will be directed to use existing surface streets, bike lanes, and sidewalks through Capitola Village and up to the Monterey and Park Avenue intersection, where the trail restarts. A new trail bridge over Soquel Creek was excluded from the ultimate trail configuration due to the infeasibility of cantilevering a trail bridge from the Capitola Trestle, like was done at the San Lorenzo River, as well as the difficulty of constructing a standalone trail bridge due to the limited right-of-way next to the existing bridge. So due to these constraints, the RTC is proposing to replace the existing trestle with a new combined rail and trail bridge over Soquel Creek as part of their zero-emission passenger rail and trail project. The segments 10 and 11 project will be improving the existing bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure along the route shown on the screen in green through several methods. Most significantly, the project will be restriping a roughly 350-foot long section of Cliff Drive from the end of the trail to the start of the existing sidewalk on Cliff Drive in order to create a separate 4-foot wide pedestrian path next to a 5-foot wide Class B bike lane, creating separation between cyclists and pedestrians where currently there is none. Similar to other portions of the rail trail, like in segment 8 in front of the boardwalk, where there are existing bicycle facilities that are part of the trail, the project will be adding green paint to the existing Class 2 bike lanes and Class 3 bike sharrows to improve the visibility of cyclists and better delineation of the bike infrastructure. And the project will also be installing rail trail branded wayfinding signage through the village to help trail users navigate from one end of the trail to the other. Alternatively, with the optional interim trail configuration, trail users would remain on the rail alignment over the Capitola Trestle and continue to Monterey and Park. This would involve removal of the tracks, making necessary structural repairs to the trestle, and then conversion of the structure to a bicycle and pedestrian bridge. In addition, the conversion of the trestle to a trail bridge is included as part of the ultimate trail configuration under design option A in the EIR. Under this hybrid scenario, the ultimate trail would be implemented up to Opal Street and then transition onto the alignment of the existing tracks, which would be removed. The trestle would be repaired and converted to trail use, just like with the interim trail configuration, and then the trail would transition back to the ultimate trail on the coastal side of the tracks, just past the Monterey and Park intersection. The inclusion of design option A provides environmental clearance under CEQA for the trestle conversion as part of the ultimate trail project, and therefore maximizes flexibility for decision makers to determine the best future use of the trestle. Moving east out of Capitola Village from Monterey Avenue, segment 11 passes through the narrow rail cut to Grove Lane and along the Park Avenue bluffs. At Coronado Street, a new ramp will connect the trail to the Park Coronado intersection and the New Brighton State Beach parking lot. The project then crosses New Brighton State Beach Access Road on either a new bike ped bridge for the ultimate trail or a converted existing rail bridge for the interim trail. It then passes below the State Beach Campground, across New Brighton Road, traverses the Porter Sesson open space to Estates Drive, and continues into the Seacliff neighborhood where a trail connection is proposed at Poplar Drive, and the project ends at State Park Drive. Segment 11 includes new trail crossings at Grove Lane, New Brighton Road, Estates Drive, and Mar Vista Drive, which, similar to segment 10, include cross bikes and activated flashing crossing lights where needed. The ultimate trail is on the coastal side from Monterey to Mar Vista and switches to the inland side from Mar Vista to State Park Drive. It includes several viaducts over the stream crossings shown on the map in red and large retaining walls in several places to deal with the adjacent steep topography. Speaking of steep topography, from Monterey to Grove Lane, the steep hills and abundant trees in this area make this one of the more challenging portions of the project. The design team explored 3 different alignments for the ultimate trail in conjunction with the City of Capitola and RTC staff to determine which alignment had the least environmental impacts. We looked at the trail on the inland side of the tracks, the trail on the coastal side of the tracks, and a trail along Park Avenue at road grade. The trail on the coastal side of the tracks requires the least number of tree removals and has the least impacts, and that is the proposed alignment. However, the steep topography necessitates the use of retaining walls to hold up the slope. The original design shown on the left utilized a single tall retaining wall, and the latest designs shown conceptually on the right utilize 2 smaller walls to raise the trail above railroad grade, which reduces cost, avoids the need for underground anchors below adjacent private properties, and makes the walls less imposing to trail users. Between Grove Lane and Coronado Street, the project added design option B, which places the ultimate trail on the inland side of the tracks as opposed to the coastal side, at the request of the Coastal Commission due to concerns over bluff erosion at this location. The project team is currently working with the RTC and Coastal Commission staff to determine how estimates of bluff erosion in concert with sea level rise might impact the project and influence the Coastal Commission's approval of the project. In the images on screen, the ultimate trail configuration is shown on the left and design option B is on the right. And these first images show how the 2 alignments would connect to Grove Lane and the existing sidewalks on Park Avenue. The second images show how the 2 alignments would provide an ADA accessible trail connection to the Park Coronado intersection and a new formal crossing of the rail line. Like the Opal Street intersection, this new crossing is subject to CPUC approval. But again, with the well-documented existing use, we think the crossing is likely to be approved. The project is also working with state parks to improve the highly popular and also highly eroded informal access trail to New Brighton with a concrete staircase so people can more easily get from the trail and neighborhood to the beach. And then finally, this last slide shows some example conceptual images of the viaducts that are proposed for the ultimate trail configuration over many of the stream crossings or where the adjacent rail line is built on a steep embankment. These avoid the need to build large retaining walls that would result in greater tree removal and greater impacts to riparian habitat. As is appropriate for a project of this magnitude and impact, and especially given the widespread public interest, we've held numerous public engagement events over the last 2.5 years in order to give the public an opportunity to understand the project and provide their input. These events, I think there's 20 of them, are shown on the screen. Moving into the environmental review process. So the county